Have you ever wondered, why do some people go through failure and very dark years yet still never lose themselves, while so many others feel exhausted with life before the new day has even begun? Could it be that what is silently shaping your life is not your circumstances, but the way you speak to yourself every morning? Because before the world even has a chance to touch you, what have you already said to yourself? Hope or surrender? The truth is, a person's life usually does not change because of one big moment. It changes because of the small things repeated every single day, especially in the morning. And today, I want to share with you 9 simple phrases, but if you truly understand them and live with them long enough, one day you will realize what changed your life was the way you started every morning. And stay with me until the end of this video, because there is one final phrase that many people have needed to hear for years. The first phrase, today I choose to be happy. There is something I learned after many years of observing people. Most people are not truly living according to their circumstances. They are living according to the way they interpret those circumstances. 2 people can go through the same storm. One becomes bitter. One becomes stronger. One wakes up every morning feeling like life is against them. The other can still find a reason to keep moving forward. And then I began to understand, happiness is not something life naturally gives to a few lucky people. It is an inner decision, a choice, an attitude. That is why the first phrase every morning matters so much. Today, I choose to be happy. Pay attention to the word choose, choice. Because so many people are living as if happiness is something they must wait for. They say, I'll be happy when I make more money. I'll be happy when life gets easier. I'll be happy when everything becomes stable. But life always has another storm waiting ahead. If you wait until everything is perfect before allowing yourself peace, you may wait your entire life. I once met a man who worked nearly his whole life in a small machine shop. He woke up very early every day. His shirt was always stained with oil. His hands were rough and calloused. His income was not high. Life had never really been easy for him. But strangely, every morning he walked into the coffee shop with a very gentle smile. Not loud, not fake, just a rare kind of calmness. One day I asked him, how are you still able to stay cheerful like that? He smiled and said something I remembered for a very long time. Life never promised to be easy, so I learned not to hand my emotions over to my circumstances. That was when I understood. So many people are allowing the weather outside to control the weather inside them. If it rains, they become irritated. If someone treats them badly, they carry that frustration all day long. If work does not go well, they begin speaking to themselves like failures. And then it repeats every morning, every week, every year, until negativity becomes their personality. But real happiness does not work that way. Real happiness is much more mature than that. It does not mean life is no longer difficult. It means you stop allowing difficulty to decide who you are. Because there will always be problems. There will always be bills. There will always be people who disappoint you. There will always be days when you feel behind in life. But the question is, how will you wake up in the middle of all of that? Will you step into the new day like someone fighting for their life, or like someone who already surrendered before sunrise? Some people open their eyes in the morning and immediately begin complaining. They have not even gotten out of bed, yet their minds are already filled with defeat. And the dangerous part is, when you repeat an emotion long enough, you begin to believe it is who you truly are. But no, you were not born to spend your entire life trapped in exhaustion and bitterness. You are only stuck in a pattern of thinking that has been repeated for too long. Remember this, the sun still rises even after the biggest storms, and so do people. Maybe your life has not changed yet today. Maybe you are still in debt, still under pressure, still uncertain about the future. But if you still woke up this morning, you still have the chance to begin changing the way you look at life. That is why I want you to say this sentence slowly every morning. Today I choose to be happy. Not because everything is perfect, but because you refuse to hand your entire life over to your circumstances. You choose to protect the light inside yourself. You choose to keep your peace. You choose not to let the darkness of life turn you into someone else. And over time, the first thing that changes will not be your money, not your job, not the world around you, but the way you walk into each day. And trust me, when a person changes the way they enter life, life eventually begins changing the way it responds to that person. The second phrase, I am grateful for what I still have. There is something very strange about human beings. We usually only recognize the value of something after we lose it. A healthy person rarely thinks about the value of breathing until they are lying in a hospital bed. A person with a family rarely realizes how rich they truly are until the house becomes empty. A person who still has time often believes tomorrow will always be there until years disappear faster than expected. And then I realized many people are not truly poor because they lack money. They are poor because they have lost the ability to see the good things still remaining in their lives. That is why the second phrase, every morning, matters so much. I am grateful for what I still have. Pay attention to the word still. Still have. Because no matter how difficult your life may be right now, there is always something still remaining with you. Maybe you do not yet have the life you want, but you still have opportunity. Maybe you are exhausted, but you still have another day to begin again. Maybe you have failed before, but you still have the lesson. And sometimes those small things become the foundation for a completely new life. I once knew a man who lost almost everything after a failed business period. He lost money, lost his job. There were even days when he did not want to leave the house because of shame. He once told me, "I feel like my life is over." But years later, when looking back at that period, he said something completely different. What saved me was not money, but realizing I still had things to be grateful for. He started with very small things. A small roof that still kept the rain away. A wife who stayed beside him even through difficult times. A body still healthy enough to begin again. Another morning to wake up to. And strangely, when he began appreciating those small things, his mindset changed. He no longer woke up feeling like a victim of life. He began feeling like he still had something worth building. You see, gratitude does not make problems disappear, but it changes the way you stand in front of those problems. A grateful person can still go through difficult days, but they are not completely swallowed by darkness, because there is still light inside their mind. There are many people who live their entire lives in emotional poverty, even while having much more than others. They are always focused on what they do not have. A person with one car wants two. A person with one house wants a bigger one. A person who reaches one goal immediately feels empty because another goal is still ahead. And so, they spend their whole lives chasing life without ever truly experiencing it. I believe that is one of the most dangerous forms of poverty, because when a person loses the ability to feel grateful, nothing will ever be enough for them anymore. They will always feel lacking, always feel unsatisfied, always feel like life owes them something. But think about a farmer. He plants seeds into the ground. He does not stand there complaining because the seeds did not become trees overnight. He is grateful for the land he has, grateful for the rain, grateful for the chance to plant. And that patience is what allows the harvest to grow. Life works the same way. When you focus only on what is missing, your mind becomes dry and barren land. But when you begin feeling grateful, even for small things, you are watering your soul. You begin seeing life through different eyes. You begin seeing opportunity where you once saw disappointment. You begin seeing hope where you once saw pressure. That is why I want you to begin every morning with this phrase. I am grateful for what I still have, not because life is perfect, but because you understand that you still have things worth loving, still have things worth protecting, still have opportunities to change. And remember this, there are people who would trade everything they have just to return to the life you are living right now one more time, to see the sun one more morning, to hear the voice of a loved one for one more day, to have one more chance to fix old mistakes. Do not wait until something is gone before learning how to value it, because many things you consider ordinary today, one day will become the things you miss the most. And I believe one of the first signs that a person is truly maturing is when they stop asking, why don't I have more? And begin asking, how can I better appreciate what life has still chosen to leave with me? The third phrase, I refuse to speak against myself. There is a battle most people are losing every single day, yet they do not even realize it is happening. It is not the battle out there, not with money, not with circumstances, not with other people. It is the battle inside their own minds. Because so many people spend their entire lives speaking to themselves like they are failures. They do not say it out loud, but those sentences keep repeating inside their heads every day. I'm not good enough. I'm always slower than everyone else. I probably can't change anyway. Maybe this is all my life will ever be. And the dangerous part is, if you hear a voice long enough, eventually you will believe it is the truth. That is why this third phrase can completely change the way you see yourself. I refuse to speak against myself. I refuse to go against myself. It sounds simple, but many people have never done that. They spend years destroying themselves with negative words. One small mistake makes them call themselves stupid. One failure makes them think they are worthless. One difficult season makes them question their entire value as a person, and over time, those words become identity. I once met a man who worked in sales for many years. He was capable, hardworking, honest, but his life always seemed stuck. One day I asked him, "Why do you always think you cannot go further?" He smiled quietly and said, "I don't think I was born to succeed like other people." Listen carefully to that sentence. I don't think I was born to succeed. That is no longer just a thought. It has become a belief. And when a person begins believing they are small, they will live small. They will not dare to try, not dare to step forward, not dare to expect more from themselves, not because they lack ability, but because they secretly sentenced themselves long ago. I believe many people do not fail because they lack talent. They fail because they have spoken to themselves like losers for too long. You see, the mind is like a garden. If every day you plant doubt, fear, and self-hatred into it, then do not be surprised when your life grows in negativity. Because words do not only create emotions, they create direction. A person who constantly says, "I can't do it," will begin acting like someone who cannot do it. A person who constantly thinks, "I'm not valuable enough," will accept lives beneath their true worth. That is how people shrink their own lives. No one forces them to do it. They do it to themselves. And the saddest part is, many people speak to strangers more kindly than they speak to themselves. They can encourage others, forgive others, believe in others. But when they look at themselves, all they see is disappointment. All they see is flaws. All they see is failure. But listen to me carefully. You cannot build a strong life using the language of someone who has already surrendered. You cannot become a better version of yourself if every day you keep telling yourself you are not good enough. A tree cannot grow healthy if its roots are constantly poisoned. And negative words are poisoning the emotional roots of so many people. That is why I want you to begin paying attention to the way you speak to yourself. When you fail, do not immediately call yourself worthless. When you make mistakes, do not treat yourself like a failure. When life becomes difficult, do not conclude that you have no future, because one difficult moment does not define your entire life. One winter does not define the whole year. One storm does not define the sky, and one failure does not define who you are. Maybe right now you are not where you want to be. Maybe you are still struggling with money, confidence, or old wounds, but that does not mean you are worthless. It only means that you are still growing through the journey. And then I realized something very important. The moment a person's life begins changing direction is often the moment they stop fighting against themselves. They stop putting themselves down, stop destroying themselves with negative thoughts, stop seeing themselves as failures every time they fall. Instead, they begin speaking to themselves like someone who still has hope, someone who still has the ability to grow, someone who is not perfect but not finished either. So every morning, before the world has the chance to tell you who you are, remind yourself of this. I refuse to speak against myself. I refuse to become the first person to doubt myself. I refuse to use words to destroy my own future. And I refuse to live the rest of my life like someone who already gave up inside. The fourth phrase, I am capable of more than I realize. There is something very painful I realized after many years. So many people are living beneath their true potential, not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, but because somewhere in the past they began believing they were smaller than who they truly are. And then they spend their entire lives inside that box. They go to work every day but no longer expect anything greater. They still have old dreams but no longer dare to mention them. They see others succeed and tell themselves, that person is more special than me. That person is luckier than me. I don't have the ability they have. But listen to me carefully. Many limitations in your life were never real. They are only stories you repeated in your mind for too long. That is why every morning you need to remind yourself of this. I am capable of more than I realize. I have more ability than I think. I remember once seeing an eagle raised among chickens on a small farm. It walked like a chicken, ate like a chicken, lived like a chicken. It had never flown, not because it lacked wings, but because it never believed it belonged to the sky. And then I thought, that is exactly how so many people are living. They were born with far greater potential than what they are currently showing. But over time, failure, criticism, rejection, years of not being recognized, all of it slowly makes them forget who they truly are. There are people who were once very confident when they were young. They once wanted to build something meaningful, once wanted to live a different kind of life. But then life started colliding with them. One financial failure, one exhausting job, one person telling them they were not good enough, a few broken dreams, and little by little, they began shrinking themselves to fit their fears. That is what life often does to people if they are not careful. It does not destroy you immediately. It only slowly makes you forget the strength you once had. I once met a man in his 40s. He had worked the same job for nearly 20 years. Life was steady, safe, not terrible, but not truly alive either. One day he told me, "I once wanted to start my own business, but now it's probably too late." I asked him, "Who told you that?" He stayed silent. And that is the interesting part. Many limitations we believe are real were never actually confirmed by anyone. They were simply created from fear repeated over and over again. You see, when a person doubts their ability for too long, they slowly stop trying. And when they stop trying, their life begins standing still. Not because they ran out of potential, but because they stopped using it. Like a seed buried underground for too long that never dared to grow because it feared the sky above was too big. But the problem is, you will never know who you could become if you always live as the smallest version of yourself. That is why I believe one of the most dangerous things in life is when people begin accepting a lower version of themselves as if it were destiny. They stop learning, stop growing, stop dreaming bigger, stop believing their life can still change. And then the years pass, not because they lack ability, but because they no longer believe they have it. But remember this. A giant tree was once only a tiny seed. Everything great begins in a very ordinary form. No one looks at a seed and immediately sees the forest. No one looks at a struggling person today and immediately sees their future. But that does not mean the potential is not there. You may not yet see the person you will become, but that does not mean that version is not waiting ahead. Sometimes the first thing a person needs is not money, not opportunity, not perfect circumstances, but the belief that I can still grow. I can still change. I still have more potential than where I am now. That is why I want you to say this sentence every morning, not as empty motivation, but as a reminder to the strongest part inside you that has been asleep for too long. I am capable of more than I realize. I am not the final version of myself. I am not defined by past failures. I am not limited by where I stand today. And maybe the greatest thing preventing my life from changing is not the world out there, but the fact that I have underestimated who I could become. The fifth phrase, I focus only on what I can control. There is a reason so many people live in stress for years. They are trying to control things that were never theirs to control. They try to control what other people think, try to control the economy, try to control the past, try to control things that already happened. And then they become exhausted, not because life is too heavy, but because they are carrying things that never belonged to them. That is why this phrase can bring you more peace than you realize. I focus only on what I can control. I only focus on what I can control. It sounds simple, but if you truly understand this, your life will become much lighter. I once knew a man who spent years complaining about his life. He blamed the economy, blamed his job, blamed the people who disappointed him, blamed the fact that he was not born into a wealthy family. And maybe some of those things were true. Life is sometimes unfair. Some people start from a better position than others. Some people must go through hardships others will never understand. But then I realized something. No matter how different circumstances are, there is always one question every person must face. What will I do with my life now? Because eventually, blame no longer helps you move forward. It only keeps you standing still longer. You see, many people are handing the power of their lives over to outside forces. If someone treats them badly, they lose an entire day to anger. If work does not go well, they lose hope. If things do not happen according to plan, they immediately think life is against them. And then their emotions change constantly like the weather. But a truly mature person understands this. You cannot control the wind, but you can control the sails. I have always loved the image of a sailor in the middle of a storm. He cannot command the sea to calm down, cannot ask the wind to change direction, cannot stop the rain. But he still has one very important thing, the steering wheel. And life is the same way. There will always be things beyond your control. There will be people who misunderstand you. There will be days when plans collapse. There will be losses you cannot change. There will be seasons when life does not go the way you hoped. But in the middle of all that, you still have the power to decide how you will respond. That is where real strength exists. Not in controlling the whole world, but in controlling yourself. Some people are very strong not because they never went through hardship, but because they do not allow hardship to control their minds. They keep moving forward, still maintain discipline, still protect their character even on terrible days. And that is something many people have not yet learned. They want to change their lives, but spend all their energy worrying about things they cannot change. They spend hours thinking about what already happened. The words other people said, the opportunities they lost, their old mistakes. But the past is like yesterday's rain. You can look back at it, learn from it, but you cannot spend your entire life standing under it. One of the most mature moments in a person's life is when they stop asking, why did this happen to me? And begin asking, what can I do now? That question changes everything. Because the moment you focus on action, you reclaim your power. Maybe you cannot control the economy, but you can control your work ethic. Maybe you cannot control the past, but you can control today's decisions. Maybe you cannot control other people, but you can control how you respond to them. And trust me, many lives begin changing direction when people stop fighting things outside their reach and begin building the things within their reach. One day at a time, one choice at a time, one small action at a time. Like a farmer who cannot control the weather but still wakes up early to care for his land, he understands that some things must be left to life, but some things are still his responsibility. That is why every morning I want you to remind yourself of this. I focus only on what I can control. I will not waste my life in resentment. I will not hand my peace over to circumstances. I will not let things outside my control steal my energy for living. And no matter how chaotic the world becomes, I will still hold the steering wheel of my life firmly. The sixth phrase, every challenge is training me. There is something most people do not realize until very late in life. The hardest seasons are often where a person is created, not the easy days, not when everything is going smoothly, but during the periods when they think they are about to collapse. That is why every morning I want you to remember this phrase. Every challenge is training me. Every challenge is strengthening me. Because if you look at life the right way, you will realize that many things that once hurt you eventually became the very things that made you stronger. I once knew a man who lost almost everything after a business failure. He lost money, lost his job. There were days when he sat for hours in a dark room without knowing where to begin again. He once said, I feel like life is punishing me. Maybe you have felt that way too. When everything keeps going wrong, when you try your best but still fail, when financial pressure keeps you awake at night, when you watch other people move forward while you still feel stuck. At times like that, it is very easy to think, maybe life is against me. But many years later, that same man told me something completely different. He said, if I had not gone through that season, I would never have become the person I am today. And that is often what life does. When everything is easy, people rarely change. We procrastinate. We fall asleep inside comfort. We think we still have plenty of time. But hardship wakes people up. It forces you to look at yourself, forces you to mature, forces you to become stronger than your old self. A seed cannot become a tree without breaking through its old shell. Coal cannot become a diamond without pressure. Bamboo cannot become strong without surviving powerful winds. And people are the same way. I know there are people listening to this during a very difficult season of life. Maybe you are exhausted from work. Maybe you are struggling financially. Maybe you feel behind in life. Maybe you are trying to stay strong, but inside you are almost completely drained. And I want you to know this. Just because life is difficult does not mean life is over for you. Sometimes it is simply the season where you are being trained. You see, one of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that a good life is a life without hardship. No, a strong life is a life that knows how to walk through hardship without losing itself. Because challenges do not only test your ability, they reveal who you truly are. When you lose money, do you still keep your character? When you are rejected, do you still keep moving forward? When life is unfair, do you still keep your kindness? That is what truly matters. Some people give up after the slightest wind, but others walk through storms and become calmer, not because they are more special, but because somewhere along the journey they understood that pain is not the enemy. Pain is the teacher. I remember once seeing a large bamboo tree after a storm. Many other large trees had been broken and fallen, but the bamboo was still standing. Why? Because bamboo knows how to bend when the winds are strong. It does not fight the storm foolishly. It learns how to move through the storm. And life will teach you the same thing. There are times when you must be strong. There are times when you must be patient. There are times when you simply need to survive a difficult season before the light returns again. Do not be ashamed that you are struggling. Do not think hardship makes you weak. Many of the strongest people I have ever met were people who once walked through very dark years, but instead of allowing darkness to make them bitter, they allowed it to make them wiser. And maybe right now, you do not understand why you must go through all of this. But one day, you will look back and realize there are lessons only pain can teach. There are strengths only adversity can create. And there are stronger versions of yourself that would never exist if life had always been easy. So every morning, before fear has the chance to tell you that you cannot handle anymore, remind yourself of this. Every challenge is training me. Life is not always punishing me. Sometimes, it is simply preparing me for a greater, stronger, and deeper version of myself ahead. The seventh phrase, I will improve a little today. There is one mistake that keeps so many people from ever changing their lives. They believe that to have a different life, they need one huge breakthrough, one big opportunity, one powerful burst of motivation, one special day when everything suddenly changes. But life rarely works that way. Most real changes begin very small, so small that many people overlook them. That is why every morning I want you to remind yourself of this. I will improve a little today. Today I will become a little better, not more perfect. Not changing your entire life overnight, just a little better. Because the truth is, many lives fail not because people lack ability, but because they keep waiting for a perfect tomorrow to begin. They say, next week I'll get serious. Next year I'll change. When life becomes easier, I'll start. But time keeps passing, and life stays the same. I once knew a man who always said he wanted to change his life. He wanted to read more books, wanted to become healthier, wanted to build something for himself. But for many years, he only talked about it. He always waited for the perfect moment. A less busy day, a less stressful month, a more favorable situation. And the painful part was, many years passed before he realized that life does not change because of the things we plan to do. It changes because of the things we actually do every day. You see, a tree does not grow overnight. It grows little by little, quietly, slowly, day after day. People are the same way. Reading a few pages each day seems small. Waking up 30 minutes earlier seems small. Controlling your temper a little better seems small. Saving a little more money seems small. But when those small things are repeated long enough, they begin creating a completely different life. That is what many people do not understand about success. They only see the final result. They see a confident person, but do not see the many years of silent discipline behind that confidence. They see a stable life, but do not see the thousands of small choices that created it. No one builds a house with only one brick, but every brick still has to be laid down each day. I think one of the most dangerous things is when people underestimate small improvements. Because when you underestimate small things, you will never have enough patience to build something great. Some people quit simply because they do not see results immediately. They work out for a few days and stop. Read a few pages and forget about it. Try changing for a few weeks and think, maybe this just isn't for me. But life always rewards people who stay consistent with small things. Like water flowing over stone. Not because water is stronger than stone in one day, but because it never stops. I remember once seeing a farmer wake up very early every morning to care for his land. The work was repetitive enough that many people would find it boring. But he understood something very deeply. The harvest does not come from one day of hard work. It comes from steady care through many ordinary days. And your life will also be built in ordinary days like those. Not in a few rare dramatic moments, but in the small choices nobody sees. The way you wake up, the way you speak to yourself, the way you respond when you are tired, the way you stay disciplined when no one is watching. That is where the future is truly built. The problem is, many people want a new life while keeping old habits. They want to become stronger but still procrastinate. Want to become more confident but still give up too quickly. Want to become more successful but are unwilling to improve a little every day. But remember this, you do not need to become great today. You only need to stop living exactly like yesterday. One small change is still change. One small step still moves you forward. One better choice is still building a better person. And over time, things that once felt difficult will become normal. Discipline will become part of your nature. Confidence will slowly grow. Your life will gradually change direction, not because of magic, but because you quietly changed yourself every day. That is why every morning I want you to say this sentence sincerely. I will improve a little today. No need to be faster than everyone else. No need to be perfect. No need to change the whole world immediately. Just today, be a little better than the version of yourself that wanted to give up yesterday. And trust me, if you continue doing that long enough, One day you will look back and no longer recognize the old version of yourself. The eighth phrase, I will protect my mind and my environment. There is something most people realize too late. The environment around you is quietly shaping the person you become. The conversations you hear every day, the people you spend time with, the thoughts you allow into your mind. All of those things are like water flowing into a piece of land. And over time, that land will grow whatever it is being fed. That is why every morning I want you to remind yourself of this. I will protect my mind and my environment. I will protect my mind and my environment. Because the truth is, no one can live in darkness for a long time without being affected by it. If every day you stay around people who constantly complain, you will begin seeing life through their negativity. If every day you hear words filled with hopelessness, your mind will slowly begin believing that hope is naive. If every day you live in laziness, procrastination, and lack of purpose, it becomes very difficult to keep your inner fire alive. I have met people with tremendous potential who slowly lost themselves because of their environment. They had big dreams when they were young, had motivation, had ambition, but over the years, they spent time with people who mocked effort, who always said, life never changes. Don't dream too big. Everyone ends up ordinary anyway. And the dangerous part is, if you hear something long enough, eventually you begin believing it. That is how many people give up on their dreams without even realizing it. Not because they are weak, but because they stayed too long in an environment where strength slowly disappeared. I remember once seeing a beautiful garden behind a small house. The owner cared for it every day. He paid attention to every type of soil, every source of water, every weed growing there. Someone asked him, "Why do you have to be so careful?" He answered, "Because if I don't decide what is allowed to grow here, weeds will decide for themselves." And the human mind works the same way. If you do not intentionally protect it, negativity will automatically enter. Doubt will automatically grow. Fear will automatically fill the empty spaces inside you. That is why mature people must learn how to be selective. Not everyone deserves access to your mind. Not every voice deserves your attention. Not every environment is healthy for your future. Some places make you feel smaller after every day. Some relationships drain your energy completely. Some conversations slowly make you lose faith in yourself. And sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is not trying to endure everything, but being wise enough to walk away from what is slowly destroying your spirit. I know that is not easy, because sometimes negative environments become familiar. Some people grow up around criticism for so long that they think it is normal. Some people live around pessimism for so long that they forget what hope even feels like. But remember this, a good seed cannot grow strong in toxic soil, and neither can you. If you want your life to change, you must begin paying attention to what is feeding your mind every day. What are you listening to? Who are you spending time with? What kind of thoughts are you allowing to live inside your mind? Because your future is not created only by effort. It is also created by the environment quietly shaping who you become. I have seen people completely change simply because they began spending time around better people, more disciplined people, more positive people, people with greater vision. Like a piece of charcoal placed beside fire, they began burning brightly again. That is the power of environment. It either lifts you up or pulls you down. And then I realized, one of the greatest acts of self-love is protecting the peace inside your own mind, not by hiding from life, but by being careful about what you allow inside yourself. So every morning, before the world fills your mind with chaos, negativity, and fear, remind yourself, I will protect my mind and my environment. I will not allow negativity to live rent-free inside my mind. I will not allow people who gave up on life to decide my limits. I will choose things that help me grow. Choose people who make me better. Choose thoughts that make my spirit stronger. And if necessary, I am willing to walk away from places slowly extinguishing the light inside me. The ninth phrase, today I will leave something good behind. There is one question very few people ask themselves early enough. If one day you leave this world, what will remain after you are gone? Not how much money you made, not how many things you owned, not how successful other people thought you were, but rather, what did you leave inside the hearts of others? That is why this final phrase is so important. Today I will leave something good behind. Today I will leave something good behind me. Because in the end, a person's true value is not found in what they keep for themselves, but in what they bring into this world. I once met a very successful man. He had money. status, everything many people believe brings happiness. But one day he sat quietly for a long time and told me, "I spent too many years building a life and forgot to build meaning for that life." That sentence stayed with me for a very long time. Because so many people are running very fast without knowing what they are running toward. They wake up every morning only to survive, earn money, pay bills, repeat everything again. And then the years pass so quickly that they never truly live deeply with their own lives. You see, people do not only need success, people need to feel that their lives have meaning. That is why one small act of kindness can sometimes fill your soul more than money ever could. A word of encouragement at the right moment, helping someone when they feel hopeless. One sincere conversation, one good thing you leave behind on an ordinary day. All of those things matter far more than many people realize. I remember once meeting an old teacher in a small town. He was not famous, not wealthy. His life was very simple. But whenever he walked through that small street, many people stopped to greet him with deep respect in their eyes. Later I learned, many years earlier, he had helped many poor children continue their education. He did not change the whole world, but he changed the lives of a few people. And sometimes, that alone is already something great. I think one of the most beautiful things about life is that we always have the opportunity to become a small light for someone else. You do not need to be extraordinary, do not need to be famous, do not need to be perfect. A father coming home with patience instead of anger is leaving something good behind. A woman who remains kind even after life has wounded her is leaving something good behind. A person who still chooses honesty in a world where many choose convenience is leaving something good behind. Life is not changed only by people who do huge things. It is also changed by people who quietly bring kindness every day. Like a small candle lighting up a dark room. Like a large tree silently giving shade for many years without needing attention. Some good things you leave behind will outlive even you. And eventually, you will understand this. Success without meaning still leaves emptiness in the end. Because human beings were not born only to accumulate. We were born to grow, to love, to contribute, to leave something better behind after passing through this life. I know sometimes life makes people cold. Pain causes them to close themselves off. Disappointment causes them to lose faith in others. But do not let the darkness of the world turn you into someone you no longer recognize. Do not let the bad things you experienced become your reason to stop being kind, because a person's true character is often seen most clearly in the way they treat others while they themselves are exhausted. And maybe you do not realize this, but someone out there may need exactly one sentence from you to keep going for one more day. Someone may be hopeless and your kindness becomes the thing that keeps them here. That is why every morning before stepping into this world, I want you to remind yourself, today, I will leave something good behind. Today, I will not live only for myself. I will leave kindness behind, leave value behind, leave light behind. And no matter how difficult life becomes, I still want that wherever I pass through, that place becomes a little better because I was there. Because in the end, a beautiful life is not the life that receives the most, but the life that leaves behind the most good after passing through this world. And after all of this, I want you to pause for a moment. Take a deep breath and think about the person you have become over the past few years. Not the person society sees, but the real person inside you. The person who wakes up in the morning with thoughts no one else hears. The person silently fighting pressure, fear, and exhaustion. Because the truth is, many of the greatest battles in life happen in silence. No one sees them. No one applauds them. But they determine the entire direction of your life. And that is why the words you speak every morning matter so much. Because before the world has the chance to tell you who you are, what have you already told yourself? Do you tell yourself there is still hope, or do you tell yourself your life is already too late? Do you tell yourself you can still grow, or have you secretly surrendered long ago? You see, a person's life is often built from repeated things, repeated thoughts, repeated choices, repeated habits, and eventually, repeated words. If every morning you wake up with gratitude, over time, your soul will become different. If every morning you choose growth instead of resentment, you will become a different person. If every morning you remind yourself that hardship is training you, you will walk through adversity with a different kind of strength. And if every morning you continue planting light inside your mind, one day your life will begin blooming in the same way. But remember this, no one can do that for you. No video, no book, no speech. In the end, you are still the one who must wake up every morning and decide how you will live. Will you continue speaking to yourself like someone who already lost, or like a person who still has a future ahead? Will you continue letting circumstances control your mind, or begin taking back the steering wheel of your life? I know sometimes it is not easy. There are mornings when people wake up with almost no energy left to continue. There are seasons of life where you feel like you are walking through fog, not knowing which direction is right, not knowing whether your efforts are truly leading anywhere. But listen to me carefully. As long as you have not given up on yourself, your life is not over yet. A tree does not grow because of one beautiful sunny day. It grows because it continues standing through many storms and rainy seasons. And people are the same way. Real strength is not found in never falling down. It is found in the fact that after everything, you still choose to rise one more time. That is why I believe every morning is not only the beginning of a new day, it is a new opportunity to rebuild yourself, one thought at a time, one choice at a time, one sentence at a time. So, tomorrow, before touching your phone, before letting the world pull your mind into chaos, spend a few minutes speaking these sentences to yourself. Say them slowly, sincerely, not like a motivational ritual, but like a promise to your own life that you will not continue living like someone who lost hope, that you will not continue letting fear decide your future, that no matter how difficult life becomes, you will still choose growth, choose light, choose to keep moving forward. And one day, you will look back at your old self and realize what changed your life was not one big moment, but very ordinary mornings where you began speaking to yourself like someone worthy of a better life. If this video touched you, press subscribe so we can continue this journey together. And leave a comment. Out of the 9 phrases today, which one was the thing you most needed to hear right now? Because sometimes, one sentence at the right moment can change the direction of an entire life. And always remember this: success is not something you pursue. It is something you attract by the person you become.